So some 2016 presidential candidates are making a play for these unbound delegates now, who could tip the scales one way or another in the race for the Republican nomination. So taking a look now at states and U.S. territories, they matter too, with potential unbound delegates. Look at your screen here. Colorado has 37. North Dakota, 28. Pennsylvania, though, leads it all. They have 57. West Virginia, 34. Wyoming, 29. Stay with me here. American Samoa and Guam each have 9 potential unbound delegates. Virgin Islands has 5. Josh Putnam is a delegate expert and political science professor at the University of Georgia. And boy, do we need you today, Josh.
Well, I'll see what I can do to help.
Okay. Welcome to The Real Story for the first time. So let's talk about these unbound delegates. There's been a lot of discussion about, most of the delegates go to the convention in July in Cleveland. They have to vote for who won that state or who they said they were going to vote for. But how do these unbound ones work?
Well, again, it depends on state rules as to whether or not a delegate's bound or not bound. The list you just went through is the small number of unbound delegates that we'll have heading to Cleveland later on. And the rules are really open as to how they can behave between now and when the voting starts in Cleveland in July.
Right.
That they can like superdelegates on the Democratic side, pledge to one candidate, but that doesn't preclude that they can switch their vote to someone else once it gets to the convention.
So we're talking about small numbers here, but not really, because when you add all those up, those are 200 votes. And it could be that those votes could decide who the GOP nominee is.
Absolutely. If Donald Trump comes into the convention just shy of the 1237 mark, then those even a small number of unbound delegates can make a difference in pushing him above that mark.
All right, let's take a look now. I want to go in on Wyoming because there are 29 delegates headed to the convention. They must either declare which candidate they support or state that they are undeclared. Delegates are chosen at the April 16th state convention. The ballots list would-be delegates and which candidate they support. So here we go again, Josh. Every state has their own rules. So it's tough even for us as news people to figure it all out.
It's tough for even me to figure it out sometimes. But, a few weeks ago, the Wyoming Republican Party held county conventions, selected 12 of those 29 delegates. 9 of them were aligned with Cruz, 1 to Donald Trump, and the remaining 2, one was to Marco Rubio, and 1 was undeclared. Those will be ratified at the state convention you mentioned before, and then the remaining group of delegates, 14 of them, will be selected there.
Right.
Early indications are that Ted Cruz will do quite well with that group of delegates also.
Yeah, he's had a good ground game with that. I think it's fascinating, though, that in this state, they have to list, the delegate has to list which presidential candidate they're supporting, because we did a report yesterday out of Pennsylvania, don't have to do that. So people go to vote for these delegates. They have no idea who the heck they're voting for. Okay, let's go to West Virginia now, because this is different. 31 of their 34 delegates will be elected on May 10th. Voters choose from Trump, Cruz, Kasich, in addition to 6 candidates with suspended campaigns. Delegates can potentially then become unbound. Explain that to all of us. How do they potentially become unbound?
Well, I mean, again, like we saw with a state like Illinois back in the middle of March, delegates are directly elected on the ballot. So you're not only voting for your presidential preference as a West Virginia voter, but you're also voting for potential delegate candidates. And those candidates, unlike in Pennsylvania, are affiliated with a candidate in most cases. So if, as what we saw in Illinois, happens in West Virginia, then it's very likely that most of those delegates are going to be affiliated with either Trump, Cruz, or Kasich. On the offhand chance that someone selects or a Rubio delegate, for instance, is elected there, then yes, that delegate candidate would be unbound heading into the convention in Cleveland.
See, this is why we're glad there are people like you, Josh, because as I said at the beginning, stay with me here. This is complicated, and these 200 delegates, they're going to be chasing all over. The media's going to be chasing them all over the place, as long as those rules committee people don't get first dibs on the media, because they're also going to be chased. All right, thanks so much. We hope to have you back on The Real Story, Josh.
Thank you, Gretchen.